hope it's okay if you're doing this in English and you don't read translations. Anybody here reads translation into German? Going to French? No? Okay. So, as you know from the program, this is Vicki Scott. And originally, she was supposed to come here with her husband. Why wasn't Bob here?
Bob just recently started working at Disney Features, and he didn't have enough vacation accumulated to join me.
So, well, that's too bad, but you're pretty good yourself at doing the Peanuts.
Thank you.
How did it come about that you got a chance to do the Peanuts after all, originally the idea was that Charles Schulz said, when I'm dead, I don't want the strip to continue.
Right, right. And that's still true. What we do is actually a comic book and not a strip. So our stuff is much longer than the 4 panels, or the 3 panels, depending on what you felt like. And we never appear in the newspapers. So the newspapers is a sacred Charles Schulz area. So way back in this, way back, in the 50s, I think, they wanted some comic books of the Peanuts characters, so Charles Schulz wrote a few of them. I think he drew a couple of them, and then he handed it over to a few friends of his to draw. So there was a precedent for doing the long-form comic books.
Yeah, those were all 4 colors, and I think a regular series which didn't last too long.
Right.
And actually there's a story behind one of the covers. Charles Schulz did it himself. I wanted to use that on a German Peanuts comic book. And the people who were in charge of licensing the stuff said, this is not an original because Charles Schulz never drew a wind-up tortoise, which scared Snoopy to jump into the arms of it. But we used the cover anyways.
There you go.
Yeah, but it was obvious that some of the comics were not drawn by.
Right, right.
Because whereas yours look very much like the original.
Well, thank you. We worked really hard at it. That's actually my main goal, is to take my own influences out of it and just leave Schulz. That's an important part of it for me.
And how do you go about it? Do you write the stories yourself?
Some of them I was able to write, which was wonderful. What a great gift that was. And then the drawing of it was for me. I do not ink, so Paige did most of the inking, and now we're starting to do so much that I have a few other inkers that work with me too. But yeah.
So actually, it's a company thing, sort of.
Yeah.
A studio thing.
If you look at the cover of all the credits, it takes like 9 people to do what Schulz did all by himself. It just.
It's like in the movies.
Yeah, he really did everything all by himself. And even if you suggested a gag to him, he'd say, well, now I can't use that. Because he wanted it all to be his, but it takes about 9 of us to do what he does.
No, that's probably why he was a genius
He
in
was,
his
yeah,
way.
yeah.
But I think your genius is too, because it takes a lot of courage to start working on a well-established character and to continue it into the future and to make it something like your own.
Right. Oh, what I do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, it's easy what I do, because he built these 3-dimensional characters. They have so much personality, so many facets to their personality that it's easy to know them and to know where they're going to go and what they look like. And it's just, he's done a really good job of fleshing these characters out.
What's your favorite character?
It varies day to day.
Which one is your favorite today?
Today, I think maybe Peppermint Patty.
Okay.
Which is weird, because as a child I did not understand Peppermint Patty. I sure didn't get Marcy. I didn't think they were funny at all, and now I get, oh, they're very funny together. So, there's always new things to discover even for me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And who does coloring? Do you also influence the coloring? Or
I do not, no. No, I have very little influence on color, and a lot of people do the color because it's a big job.
Is it easier to do shorter stories with the Peanuts or the long ones, the book, complete books? like the one in space?
Again, that's really my mood. There's something about picking up the pencil when you're going to do a 95-page story, and okay, this is going to take 3 months. And there's something nice about finishing a quicker story, but
how long did it take to do the space story?
It took me probably 3 months because I was also doing the other facets of my job, which is I did a lot of approvals for licensing, like all of us did that. It wasn't just art. Now I'm doing another graphic novel. It's sort of tied into what the movie's about. We couldn't do a version of the movie because Craig wanted to keep the story completely secret. So we took an element of it and blew that down into a story of 95 pages. And that one I only got about 6 weeks to do.
Oh my goodness.
I brought pages with me because I'm behind. So in the hotel I'll be drawing
so
tonight.
you're working in the evenings at the
Yeah.
hotel? Oh my goodness. What an experience here in Munich.
Yeah.
So you won't get around to see much of the city.
I will try to do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I roughed it out on the airplane when I went to Kansas to visit my mom, so I'm working on this wherever I have a moment.
In the space story, there's this running gag about the cat which is getting fatter
Yes.
till the end of the story.
Yeah.
Is that a takeoff on Garfield?
No, it's not.
But actually it could be, because there has been a kind of fight between Charles Schulz and Jim Davis. Davis had a dog lying on his doghouse and doing fantasies in the neighborhood, whereas Charles Schulz always mentioned a cat which was very bad to Snoopy.
Yes, yeah,
So,
super mean cat, yeah.
And I think this was a kind of, well, I don't know if it was animosity between the two or just fun or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, even Jim Davis has changed that a little bit, because the dog next door has evolved into something very strange. There are many dogs in the neighborhood.
Yes.
One who doesn't bark, one who is invisible,
Yeah.
one who is very shy and stuff like that. But you also worked for Jim Davis.
Yes, I
didn't you?
did, yeah.
When was that?
It was in the mid-'80s, at the peak of Garfield's popularity. I did they had an artist there who did all of the strips. He penciled all the strip, Garfield. He penciled U.S. Acres, which is another strip he was launching. And he did all the merchandise and this guy was just never sleeping. So I took over the merchandise for Garfield, and my husband and another fellow took over the U.S. Acres strip. And then Gary only had to do the one strip, and he was happier.
So actually you would have known Garfield and you could have included him in the story.
I could have, yes, yeah.
Because after all, it's a fat cat.
Right. Getting lighter.
It grows from, what, 25 pounds to 500 pounds at the end of the story?
Yes, yeah. I'm glad they translated it well, good.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with the translation of those books, but I translated Peanuts, and I'm also the translator of Garfield for all of the strips which have appeared so far.
Wow. Good. But it's in good hands. The translation is something I'm always curious about. I got a call from Japan because we'd done the Tokyo book, and somebody complains, Charlie Brown, you brought us 1,000,000 miles from home, and Japan called and said, it's not really 1,000,000 miles, it's only, and they told me the distance. And they said, do you want to use yak? I said, I think 1,000,000 is funnier, and they said, well, I don't think so.
Not in Japan. Oh my goodness.
So I'm always curious if they're still funny.
For the Peanuts comic books, do you also have regulations about the translation?
I don't get involved with that.
Yeah. You don't have anything to do with the translation or with the licensing and this stuff?
We have, I would think we have to turn the translation over to the people like you, because we could never proofread it, we could never check whether it's still funny. We just don't speak that many languages at the studio. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
I'm not sure if anybody speaks another language other than English. We're so lazy in America.
Well, I remember when I did 70s, I got 3 pages of typescript, very tight, with instructions what not to say in the German translation.
Interesting.
And Charles Schulz, you couldn't curse, of course.
Right.
And some things had to be translated so they fit in locally, but they should never have been anything that was not in the sense or in keeping with what Charles wanted to do.
Right.
But what was easier with Charles Schulz was you could use any illustration to fit in between panels to ease up the pages. Whereas with Jim Davis, you had a folder of, say, 100 pages with art that you could use, but you could not take anything from the strip. And his approvals were atrocious.
Yeah.
Don Evans was involved in that. And we even had to translate our own editorial stuff into English to send it to him.
Right.
And to pause. And then, when it was approved, the other 7 countries who did the Garfield comic book in Germany could use our translation to translate it to their language, and then they had to retranslate their jokes into English and send them for approval as well.
Yeah, I see. Wouldn't it be better if we just knew more language?
Yeah, it would be much simpler.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
Was there anything about the Tokyo story that was manga-like? Or did you do it the traditional Western style?
It was traditional Western style entirely, because I only know a little bit about manga. When my kids read manga a lot, and they would say, "Oh, Mom, read this page," and I say, "Okay, what panel do I start with? Where do I go next? And why is this funny?" So no, it's not a lot of manga. I just, because manga feels too modern for the strip to me. So they didn't do anything at all to that. I feel like the strip is really stuck in the 70s. And since I don't think manga was around then, at least online,
But it was around in Japan, of course.
Was it? Yeah. It didn't hit my mind yet, so no, we didn't mix that at all. Yeah.
So, did you ask anybody who knew about Japan for the story to give you ideas?
Yes, yeah. A lot of the people who worked at CA had gone to Japan, and I grilled them a lot. I had them proofread what I was reading and tell me what I was getting wrong. There's a lot of stuff on the internet I looked up. I read a lot of books about Japan. I was really hoping for a trip.
To Japan?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't quite materialize.
I think I should explain what CA means. That's Creative Associates.
Yeah.
And what is Creative Associates? That's the heirs of Charles Schulz?
Yes. The company is divided into 2 sections. The part in New York, it deals with contracts and money, and CA is Charles Schulz Creative Associates in Santa Rosa, and they head up all the art. So if they have, I think, upwards of 10,000 pieces of licensing that come through the studio every month right now, up from about 4,000. It's just crazy how many. And so every t-shirt, everything has to come and be looked at to make sure the art is appropriate, copyright lines are on it, everything's right about it. So they do a lot of that, all the licensing. They also approve and sort of spearhead directions of the art, and they do all the comics out there.
Do they also have color schemes which have to be adhered to?
You would think so, no.
No?
No.
The pink of, say, Lucy doesn't have to be the same pink in all the merchandise?
No.
That could have been impossible with Jim Davis.
Yeah.
You always had to have 30% for the pink nose.
Yes.
And Pentel colorings, which never worked because Pentel coloring wasn't used in Germany.
Right, yeah.
But RGB
yeah.
was a hell of a job to get the colors right.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're a little bit more lax with color.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know.
It is, yeah.
For the people who do the merchandise.
Yeah.
What's currently available as merchandise? 3D characters or books, or is there, what's the selection of stuff you can buy currently? Cups?
Oh yeah,
plates,
there's
shirts?
Yes. And right now the big, it motors along like this. Right now the Spike is getting ready for the big movie coming out. So they're using a lot of the art pulled from the movie on licensing, and that's going to be a really new thing.
And the fact that Charles Schulz created his characters so they could be shown from all sides helped with the 3D process for the movie?
A little bit, not as much as you think. Because, the nose is right between the eyes and the front view, but it's a little lower on the side view, so 3D you have to really figure out what's going on with these. And there's 3D is actually pretty tricky to do with the
So that's like the ears of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, they just have to pop, yeah. When you turn his
Oh my
head.
goodness.
Yeah.
But things are coming up for a film of characters that have been loved and known for years or decades. If you think back on your career, what was the moment when you decided to do comics?
Oh gosh.
Was that before you met Bob or after?
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 Yes. I trained to be an animator. But when we graduated, the animation was at a low, because it does that cyclically. It gets bigger and smaller, and it was a really low part right then. So that's when Bob and I decided to go to work for Jim Davis and ride out that low. And then that's how I got into comics, actually drawing them, because I wanted to be an animator. And then I realized, this merchandise is pretty cool. I like this.
Yeah, but that's like some of the great names of comics, like Floyd Gottfriedson, who at first wanted to do comics, and Disney told him, go into animation, and then he needed somebody to do the comic strip. And then after 7 weeks, he hoped Disney had forgotten that he wanted to call him back to animation because he liked the comic strip more than the animation.
Yeah.
And if you think back, would you have liked animation more, or today do you think that doing the comic strips is better for you?
Oh, I think I still have the call to movies. Yeah. Especially now that we've just moved to LA and it's really calling me.
And is Bob involved in movies?
Yes.
Right now?
Yeah.
Is it possible to tell what kind of project he's working on right now?
Features.
Or is it secret?
It's so secret.
It's top secret.
It's top secret. It's so secret they don't even have a title for it yet. Yeah.
So it's not only top secret, it's Disney secret.
It's Disney secret, yes.
And does he have to go to work at the studio?
They
or
have.
is he working from home?
No, he goes to work.
And you're working from home, or do you have a studio where you're working with all of the people who do the inking?
No, I'm now in LA, so that's about 400 miles from where the inker lives.
Okay.
We do a lot of mailing.
And who does the lettering? Is that done with computers nowadays?
Yes. Yeah. They got this beautiful font.
Yeah.
That's sourced from the 60s.
Yeah.
They got this amazing guy to create a font for it. It's supposed to randomize the letters so that it doesn't look like it's the exact same all the time. And they harvested all the sound effects and quotation marks and woodstock speak and everything. And this guy is so amazing that when Paige called him and said, "Could you do the lettering for us?" He said, "Yes, but I'm finishing up Leonardo da Vinci's for the Pope. So after I'm done with that, then I'll be able to do it." So he did a fine job.
I think the lettering font was available in the 80s already, back in the 80s, because you could go to novelty stores and have your personal cards, birthday cards, with the lettering by, actually I got one for my wife for her birthday.
Nice.
I was in New York. Yeah, but and I think that the lettering of Jim Davis is also available.
Interesting.
But I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But what we have in the German editions looks very much like the original.
Nice.
And I think it's much better to have with comics like Charles Schulz, it's much better to have a lettering which looks like the original.
Yes, yeah.
And the fact that, what size up do you do your originals? 1.5 or two sizes?
I think it's pretty close to 1.5. I do it as big as the board will allow me to do it. So I got 10 by 15.
Okay, that's inches.
Yes.
That's 25 by 45 in Germany.
Nice work. Yeah.
Just about.
Good.
I had to figure that out sort of fast.
Yeah, yeah. The originals were hanging in the other one.
At a larger size, it takes much longer to do the lettering by hand, so actually the computer is a big help.
It is.
For the people who put in the lettering. Do you, well, you figured out the text for the story in advance before you do the drawing, so you have the balloons, the size that's needed.
Right.
And the person who does the lettering can use the same size lettering for all of the balloons. It doesn't have to have smaller letters for some stuff, or does that happen?
Actually, I have kind of a block of letters that I kind of trace over so that I get the same size and everything so that they can use a consistent size lettering.
Okay.
They don't like to change the size.
So
they like me to fit.
You put in lines for the lettering like in the original.
Yes.
Comments.
Yeah, and actually not so much lines because it doesn't have to be straight, but I have to make sure I have the right number. So you can see on the originals most of the letters, yeah.
And you're drawing in blue pencil.
I'm in a red pencil phase now.
Red pencil?
Yeah. I'm out of my blue period.
Yeah, but the blue was used because it doesn't appear in the printing process.
Right.
And the red can be filtered out as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so long as you don't do it with pencil, because then you would have to erase.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to erase the red or the blue.
Right. And I think even I could use purple or green, which surprised me. So.
Well, they're using green screens on television, so why not do them in comics? But actually green, of course, is blue and yellow, so it might not come out as well.
They told me it would, so.
It would?
Yeah. Still got another box of red pencils,
What evil lurks in the heart of a pencil?
Yeah.
It's nice to know that somebody is keeping up the story and the characters, because, of course, like most Disney characters, or most comic characters, they can live on eternally. They don't age. They don't age in your stories either.
Right. Right.
So how old are the characters, actually?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like Sally when she's in kindergarten.
Okay.
That's my favorite Sally.
But you grew out of that. So
She did.
actually there is some growth, some aging in the strip, but it doesn't go beyond a certain point.
Right, right. So she was actually baby for a while.
So it was a big thing to have Sally arrive on the strip. Charlie was very happy about that until he first met her. And now she's about as old as he is, isn't she?
Seems like it, yeah. I always keep her a little bit younger, like she was in the early 60s.
Are the parents also, and teachers also still in the background in the stories?
Yes. I've never even drawn a hand of an adult. No.
Just kids?
Yeah. That was a trick of Tokyo, too. Because I also can't invent characters. So to take them to another country where I can't show anybody in that other country was tricky.
So that's different from something like The Simpsons, where they can use whatever characters they want in a foreign country. They had stories taking place in Japan.
Yeah. And how long have they been on the air?
For over 22 years.
Yes.
They have been longer on the air than Gunsmoke. Which was 20 years.
And they're still making new ones.
But there's a difference. Gunsmoke was a drama, and The Simpsons is sort of a comedy.
Pop culture thing,
And the characters in one episode said, "Why don't we have hairlines?" And the girl is trying to put the hairline there, but it doesn't really work.
No.
Yeah, well, it's almost 3 o'clock. I don't know what's the next thing on the program here. You ought to know. In the front seat, you picked me up for the... Do you have to go on talking? We still have questions.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody among the audience has a question to ask you. Would be nice if there were a question. Don't be shy. Simply ask it. You can ask it in German. You can ask it in French or in English. No questions.
Did you already try to draw on to draw it digitally on a computer screen?
No, I haven't. Honestly, because I don't have the technology. I don't have the Cintiq tablet to draw right on. The best I have is a Wacom tablet where I'm drawing here and looking over here, and I don't have the control that I could do that. But, now, my husband draws digitally, but I haven't made the jump yet. Yeah. Because I'm old, I don't have to.
No. Even if you did Jim Davis's inking in the 80s, you're not old.
Yeah.
That was just a few days ago.
That's right, a mere blink. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Could you say a little bit about how you feel that the humor changes with the longer story structures?
You know, it makes me realize what a genius he was to be funny in 4 panels. It takes me a lot longer. I think it's tricky to lay out a long form page because you want something funny happening every single page. And it's easy to just draw out the story and have too much going on and it's just not funny. So we have to write really tightly to make sure it's still funny and still the right emotional content, not just draw it out and make it boring. Because a couple of stories have been a little boring. But I think we fine-tuned that a little bit. So it's easier for me to write a long-form story. Because I'm not as, haiku, I think Schultz wrote more like haiku. They're beautiful. And I just need more pages. Did that answer the question at all?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
In the long form in comic books, we also have to have at the end of a page or a double page a kind of gag.
I like to.
Have a kind of stop over for the reader before he turns the page.
Yeah, a little reward for getting to the end of the page. That's how I think of it. Oh, you've made it this far. Here's a little joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no more questions, and if you are happy with the questions that I asked, then why don't we call it a day?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, I thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
We met in Leipzig for the first time, and we discovered that there's lots of the same interests in the comics, so I'm happy to have you here.
Nice.
And I hope you will enjoy your stay.
Thank you.
I've seen that you have to do lots of drawings up on stage, and that you will have to continue.
That's the fun part of the day.
And that you will also give drawing lessons. Wasn't there a problem with Creative Associates that for 2 hours we had to think that you didn't come?
Yeah, there's a little problem. I don't fully understand it, but there we go.
Oh, thank God it worked
It's
out.
a miracle I'm here. I'm happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
welcome.